YouTube? It's your boy Thomas back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. Now, this past week I didn't see anything major going on in the news today, or the past week. It's the same old crap, the indictments and, them going after Trump for crimes he didn't commit. It's already been proven, so I don't know why they're doing it again. It's just, well, I do know why. Everybody knows why. It's because, everybody's trying to get them to look away from the Biden crime family and all the crimes that they did commit, which has been proven, but whatever. That's what's going on. They know he's going to win, and they're doing everything they can to try to get him off the ballot. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. Anyways, what I really want to talk to you about this week was I didn't want to do it. I knew it wasn't going to be good. But just for you guys, I really went ahead and I watched the new Haunted Mansion movie from Disney. Yeah, I know, Disney, I should learn my lesson. But I was just curious as to what they would do with it. First of all, I know when they did it with Eddie Murphy and them, it was most of the family was all black, and then they pretty much did the same thing in this. They made them all black, which I don't get. I really don't, because the story from the actual story from the Haunted Mansion ride, it doesn't deal with a black family, so I don't get it. It's dumb, regardless of the race swapping shit. As far as the acting goes, you had some fairly decent actors in it. I really didn't care for the main guy. The one that lost his wife or whatever. Spoiler alert, sorry. You shouldn't watch. I should have said you shouldn't watch this if you plan on watching the movie, because it's going to have spoilers in it. But yeah, I didn't care for the main dude, the main actor. I like Owen Wilson, but sometimes he could be pretty cheesy when he does the comedy stuff. And Danny DeVito, he's a legend, but at the same time, I don't know. As he's gotten really old, I just don't find him as funny as I used to. He used to be really funny in the 80s and shit, but now he's not. Anyways, so the story is, this woman and her son, who I'm telling you right now, I have never met, not one fucking time, not once. And, I've, seen and met a lot of black people, or black folk, whatever. They don't dress their kids like that. There's no black boy that dresses like that. I'm sorry, they don't. It was the dumbest shit I ever seen, the way he was dressed. All the bow tie and, these, dress kid shoes from like the 20s or 40s. And I'm just, get the fuck out of here. Nobody dresses their kid that way. So dumb. But anyways, regardless, this woman and her son apparently somehow buys the mansion without doing any research on it. Next thing you know, they're, I guess you'd call it, cursed by the ghost, because they won't leave them alone. So they get Owen Wilson involved, who's actually, he pretends to be a priest, but he's really not. He's a con man. And then he ends up getting, you know, the main guy, the main black guy involved in it. Because he heard about him or some shit. So he brings him in on it. And they can't leave. In 2 hours, they always end up coming back because they get haunted by one of the ghosts. One of the ghosts attach themselves to them to haunt them, to bring them back for whatever reason. It never really explained that part of it. Then they get another woman involved, some psychic medium or some shit, who, you know, really isn't, you know, at first she really doesn't have the gift. I mean, it comes and goes kind of with her. But anyways, the main story is, which they changed in this. It wasn't the same in the first movie. This old man named Gracie or whatever, which he's not old in this film. Anyways, he owned the mansion, he built the mansion. His wife ends up dying. And apparently she wasn't white this time. Apparently she was a mixed race or some shit. Anyway, basically black. Anyways, she dies. He's sad. He wants to know what, you know, how she is in the afterlife. So he brings in his own psychic medium named, Leota or some shit like that. I can't remember the woman's name. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to this movie. It just wasn't that great. Anyways, he uses her to try to contact her, doing seances and shit like all the time. Well, eventually these seances supposedly bring in other spirits into the mansion from their dimension, from different places. And one of them happens to be this guy named Mr. Cobb or whatever, played by Jared Leto. Anyways, he was a brat when he was a kid, and he didn't get any love from his father. He had daddy issues, and when he came back, he killed his daddy, and then I don't think he killed his daddy, actually. I think his dad died and left him the estate and shit. And he came back after running away. He came back, took the estate over, and then killed all the, you know, his socialites or whatever. The people who were rich and who used to, you know, play like they liked him and shit. He was pissed that he couldn't take it out on his daddies. He took it out on them. Apparently, he had his own little mansion or manor or whatever. Apparently, this guy Gracie, you know, him doing all these seances with this woman, eventually let his spirit in, and he took over the spirits and was forcing him to do his bidding because he knew occult magic, black magic, and a way to bring himself back to life. And he needs so many souls. I think it's like 100 souls. And he gets to be flesh again. Be alive again. So he's got all the souls except for one. But the last soul has to volunteer to die for him. That's the catch. So Jared Leto's character, Cobb or whatever, he imprisons Leota in a fucking giant, what they call that, the ball or whatever, you know, the sphere, the seance ball. I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head. Anyways, he traps her soul in there or some shit. But they end up talking to her anyway because Gracie's ghost told him to. So they talk to her, and then she tells them what they need to do. That they need something physical from the physical world that used to belong to Cobb, and then they can banish him to hell or some shit with a spell. So they free Leota from the ball, crystal ball, the crystal ball. They free her from the crystal ball, and then they, together with the black psychic or whatever, together with her, they banish that motherfucker to hell, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. Of course, they got rid of the mansion, all that shit, and blah blah blah, got them new home and blah. Everybody lived happily ever after that. But there was one scene where they went on and on about his dead wife, the main character, the main black guy, his dead wife. Apparently she died. He's been on his own, so he kind of just gave up on the whole ghost hunting thing because it was his wife that was into the paranormal shit. He was a different type of, he was like a physicist or some shit, and made this camera that could see spectral light from spirits. I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I forget, they called it quantum particles, or the spectral particles, or some shit like that. I forget what he called it, but the concept, you know, sort of the story wasn't too bad. I thought the concept of the story wasn't bad. They just executed it all wrong. It was poorly done, the execution of the story. The acting, like I said, it was okay for the most part, but it wasn't that good, honestly. Like I said, I couldn't stand the main guy. I thought he sucked. But I don't know, like I said, they went on and on for like a good 10 or 15 minutes with him talking about it, how his wife died and blah blah blah. It was supposed to be like this sad, sappy moment to get you to feel for the main character, and it just, I was like, get the fuck, dude, you could tell he's full of shit, you know, and like you could tell he's acting the part, you know, you could feel for him. It was just dumb. They really didn't need to put that in there. Now, at first I thought, you know, they named a couple the Ghost, and I thought, oh wow, they're going to try to do something like the movie 13 Ghosts, where they talk about certain ghosts and their backstories, you know, but they didn't do that. They just mentioned a couple of them, you know, why they were trapped in the mansion, you know, what made them evil, blah blah blah. Like they had this one ghost who they said, you know, she was a black widow. She chopped off like 13 of her husband's heads or some shit like that. But other than that, that was pretty much it. It's just a couple of the ghosts. I was like, man, dude, you guys should have led with that. You know, talk about several of the ghosts, you know, their backstories and why they're bad. But no. So, whatever. I mean, if you want to watch it, you can, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to be seriously disappointed. This was not a good movie. They had a good concept, and they fucked it up. Again. Just tell the original story from the haunted ride. Stop twisting it all the time and putting these birds, which is the new word for being racist, fucking actors in it. Stop. Okay. Enough of that. I give it 2 thumbs down. The movie sucked. It was not that good. If you want to watch it, go ahead, but I'm just telling you, it's Disney. Disney's woke as shit anymore. Okay. Moving on. Let's get on to your B movie reviews. What's up, movieaholics? This week is Horror Week. We're getting close to that time of the year again. Here pretty soon I will do a horror marathon of a particular franchise. You know, that had like quite a few movies on it. Kind of like, you know, maybe the Freddy series, or you know, the Friday 13th series, or the Halloween series, you know. I'll pick one of them because I don't have anybody, you know, giving me suggestions or whatever like I ask every week. So I'll choose one of them to do. I was thinking of doing the Nightmare on Elm Street series, starting those up here pretty soon. And then I'll get to you with that, especially all you horror fanatics. There's a lot of yous out there, I know there is. But this week, as I said, it was Horror Week, and we're going to take a look at a couple movies that I'd never heard of before. I just happened to come across them while looking for horror flicks to do or watch and do reviews on, B-rated ones. The first one is called Parasite. It was supposed to be done in 3D. It was done in 1982 and only made about $5 million. It didn't do all that well. I was kind of surprised to see you know, who the writer and director was, which was Charles Band. You may know him from the Full Moon movies. You know, with him it's always a hit or miss. Sometimes he'll squeak by with one that's fairly decent, and then most of his other crap just sucks. But this starred Robert Galadini. I hope I pronounced that right. Forgive me if I don't. Galadini, I think is his last name. Anyway, stars him, and then of course Demi Moore was the female lead. Now, this is long before she became famous. Like one of the very first movies she ever did. She's very young in this. So the story is basically it's a post-apocalyptic movie. You know, it's after like some type of event that killed off most of the human race. They don't explain what happened. They don't tell you what killed off the human race. It may have been a war or some shit like that, but I don't ever remember hearing anything in the movie about what happened. Why there's, you know, most of the human race is gone. Anyways, you have this doctor who's played by Robert. He was working for some weird afterworld, you know, World War group. Like I said, I don't know if it was a World War that caused the extinction of most of the human race, but there you have this group that he was working for. I forget what they called them. I can't remember what they called them in the movie. But they were like this corporation or some shit. Anyways, he was making more bioweapons for him or some shit. Um, he's talking about he's making these little parasites, and these parasites, when they reproduce, they shoot off spores in the air, and if any of these spores touches you, it would grow a parasite inside of you, and then eventually kill you. And I was just, well, what the fuck? Why would you? Most of the population's been already destroyed. Why would you do that? Why would you work on something like that? That makes no sense. Apparently there's this other faction, and they like still at war with them or some shit, but it doesn't go, like it said, it doesn't really go into an explanation of who this other faction is. Anyways, he gets a parasite on him at the very beginning of the movie, and he's able to not kill it, but null it, like put it to sleep or something. But it's still growing on his stomach, inside his stomach. Now he kills all the other parasites except for one. He allows it to grow quite a bit, and then sticks it in a container, and he takes off, and he ends up in the middle of the desert at this rinky-dink town that's practically abandoned. There's just a few people left, and the whole time he's there, he's trying to figure out a cure to get rid of the parasite that's in his stomach. But in order to do that, he needs samples from he's got to study the large parasite that he allowed to grow. This guy shows up from this corporation group, and he wants, which they want the parasite. So he's trying to track him down. There's big confrontation. The doctor meets this small group of like teenagers, and they end up taking the big parasite from him and releasing it, and it kills a couple of them. Demi Moore, her character, she tries to help the doctor out to try to kill this thing that's in his stomach. Eventually they figure out how to kill it, and they go and they end up killing it. Then they have to try to kill the big parasite towards the very end, which has grown quite a bit, and it's killed several people. It sucks their life from them or some shit, and then blows them up from popping out from inside of them. Anyways, it attached itself to the corporation guy, and then they end up blowing him up with the parasite stuck on him. That's pretty much the end of the movie. But at the end, they show another parasite somewhere. So I was all like, okay, so there's another one loose. Anyways, the acting was okay. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't horrible either. Some of the lines, they were saying to each other, I don't know, it didn't flow right. Like, it was off somehow, the way they were speaking to each other sometimes. Like, we gotta kill that thing. Yes, let's go kill that thing. Right, let's go kill it. Shit like that. It's off, kind of off the script. I was like, yeah, that don't match up right. It don't feel genuine, like somebody would actually talk like that. It happened several times when I was watching the movie. I was like, okay. But for the most part, I thought it was okay, but it wasn't really like fantastic or really great. Of course, Demi Moore looked hot as fuck as usual when she was young. But other than that, it's not like you have to watch this. It's not, you know, I don't highly recommend it or anything like that. If you're a horror fanatic and you just want to check something out, or you want to see something where Demi Moore first got her start, I mean, go ahead and check it out. I give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. It's watchable, but it's really not the best movie ever, you know. Okay, let's move on to your next one. The next one was done in 1984, and it only made about $1 million. And it's called The Power. It stars Warren Lincoln and Susan Stokey. Now, Susan Stokey looked familiar. You know, I think she's done other stuff, but I'm not sure what. I didn't bother looking it up. I just, you know, she had a familiar looking face. You know, this is probably one of her first movies or some shit too. But anyways, the story is that there's this weird little, I mean tiny, it's about this tall, wooden idol from Mexico, and it's supposed to represent like this evil god or demon god or some shit. An archaeologist finds it in Mexico and brings it back to the U.S. Man, it kind of controls the person who, you know, owns it at the time. Like, it gets them to do shit, like they get possessed by this demonic spirit from the idol, and it makes them do crazy shit. Anyways, at the very beginning, you see this professor, archaeologist, and the idol ends up killing him for whatever reason. I don't know why it kills him, but it does. And then you have this, you know, this large dude, big guy, and supposedly he takes the idol, but it doesn't show that. He just asks where it's at. Now this is where it gets a little confusing, because in the next scene it shows the large guy go out in the middle of nowhere, this desert, to look for this other guy who knows something about the idol. Well, come to find out, this guy has the idol, and he tells them, you know, what the demon spirit or god, demon god's name is. And he says he has this little boy with him. I mean, they're pinched in tents. He's like, this little boy keeps it for me because, you know, if someone, you know, he's innocent, and you know, as an adult will be tempted to use, let the idol use us to use its power, which the big guy does, and it ends up like almost blowing him apart, because he shoots the guy and the boy and takes the idol, and nearly you see his skin all splitting apart and shit, and just weird crap. Then the next scene, again, it gets even more confusing, because in the next scene, you see that these kids have it, and they're doing a seance with a Ouija board, which is just stupid. I wish, you know, there's nothing to Ouija boards. It's been debunked. But anyways, they're holding a seance, and then weird shit happens. And then later on, one of them's got the idol on his desk, and it does all kinds of weird poltergeist shit. and they call and try to talk to this reporter, which is Susie Stokey. They want to talk to her about it. She doesn't really want to do a story on it, even though she used to do stories like that. The Inquirer type stories, the weird, bizarre shit. She used to do stories like that, but she don't want to do that anymore. Well, her friend, who's in love with her, a guy, he tries to convince her to take the story because he heard all about it from him. So he's trying to convince her to do the story, and she don't want to do it. And he gets a little pissed off, and he learns more about the story and what's going on. Well, eventually he gets a hold of the idol. They give the idol to him. He says he'll keep it safe. Instead, this demon spirit, possesses him or whatever. And he tries to kill the reporter and, the kids. Especially the young girl. Well, he's all transformed and he's all deformed when he's trying to kill him. And towards the end, they smash the idol with like a brick or some shit and break it apart, which instantly kills him. It's like his bones snap and crush, and he like twists up and blood's coming out of him and he's dead. That's the end of that. And then it says like 3 years later, and the young girl, she's at I don't know, I'm not sure if it's a library or what it is. I can't remember. Anyway, she's closing up for this college campus library or some shit. She's working there. And then the large guy shows up, the big dude. The fat guy. He shows up, and half his body's all mangled looking and shit. And he's walking in a cane. He's trying to convince her she should tell him more about the story, even though her name was not mentioned in this book that this reporter wrote. She tells him, all she can only tell what's in the book is what happened to her, blah blah blah. She don't understand how he tracked her down, yada yada yada. Well, she goes to her car and the guy follows her and leans into her. She's crying. He leans into the car and she turns to him. She's all transformed. She's got claws and a fucked up looking face. She kills him. And then she starts laughing, and you see this necklace with the head of the idol, the wooden idol, in the middle of the necklace, like a medallion or some shit. And that's the end of the movie. It was cheesy. It was really cheesy. It was kind of boring, honestly. They just kept going on and on about weird things that this idol's doing throughout most of the movie. It was just, like I said, it was just kind of boring. And the whole, I've got a guy friend, but I don't want, love him or anything like that, blah, blah, blah. Type of shit, typical woman. I don't know, it was just bizarre crap. Most of it didn't make any sense. It was like, how did the big guy get the idol at the beginning of the movie if he didn't get it from the archaeologist? He went to some other guy who had the idol after the archaeologist dude dies. How did he lose the idol? How did the kids get the idol? None of this is explained. The beginning of the movie is just really dumb. So unless you're just a huge horror fan, the acting was just subpar. It really wasn't all that good. and the story was just kind of lame. Like I said, the movie was kind of boring. It just fell flat for me. But like I said, unless you're just a hardcore horror fan, you can watch it if you want to. It's just, you know, it's a slow movie, and it just wasn't very interesting, at least to me. Maybe you might think differently. I don't recommend this movie. I give it 2 thumbs down. I really didn't care for it. Not my cup of tea. Okay. So, if you have any thoughts about what I talked about earlier in the video, please leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you can think of any underrated or B-rated films that you think I've never ever heard of or don't know about, please leave your suggestions down in the comment section down below, and I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. So until next time, I told you to be told the truth, and you just been told.